My country is República de Cuba, or Cuba, by Mackenzie. Cuba's literacy rate is 97%. That means 97% of Cuban people can read. Cuba's population density is 100.7 people per square kilometer. Cuba's life expectancy is about 79 years. That means Cuban people are expected to live about 79 years. The Cuban climate is a subtropical climate with a light breeze and average temperatures of 77 degrees Fahrenheit in winter and 88 degrees Fahrenheit in summer. Cuba's resources are cobalt, nickel, iron ore, chromium, copper, salt, timber, silicate, petroleum, and arable land. And arable land just means like fertile soil or good farming land. And these are two pictures of timber and copper. Cuba's official language is Spanish. They have a Caribbean dialect which is similar to Puerto Rican and Dominican Spanish. When the Spanish came, they made the people there their slaves. And since then, everyone kept speaking Spanish since the Spanish taught them that language, exactly like what happened to America. And influences of other languages are part of the language, so that makes up the Cuban dialect. In the upper left corner is the Cuban flag. The white stripes on the flag stand for purity of the patriotic cause. The red on the flag stands for bloodshed in fighting for independence. The blue stripes stand for the three military districts of colonial Cuba, or the older Cuba. The triangle stands for equality, strength, and constancy. And last, the white star, which is La Estrella Solitaria, which means the lone star, stands for independence and freedom. Cuban education starts with primary, then on to middle, secondary, vocational, and tertiary. This is just like our kindergarten, grades 1 through 5, middle school, high school, and college. Some popular cities in Cuba are Havana, which is the capital city, Santiago de Cuba, Santa Clara, and Trinidad. This pictures of Trinidad, which is a city of old colonial Cuba. Some ways to get around or transportation in Cuba is buses and taxis, which is what most Cubans take, but you can also take trains and rental cars. The main religion in Cuba is Christian, which has 6,333,820 followers, and the second main religion in Cuba is evangelicals, which has 980,553 followers. What to do for fun in Cuba is you can visit the capital, visit architectural sites, go to the National Library of Science and Technology, go to the Museum of Revolution, go to festivals, and visit Havana Bay, and many more things. Jobs and salary. One job that you can have in Cuba is being a miner and a quarry worker. That makes about 566 Cuban pesos, or $21 in U.S. money. Another job you can have is being a construction worker. That makes about 580 Cuban pesos, or $22 in U.S. money. Another job you can have in Cuba is being in the mining industry. That makes about 466 Cuban pesos, or $18 in U.S. money. The government of Cuba. Cuba is a communist state. That means the government controls everything and they are run by a dictator. Cuba's dictator is Raul Castro. Cuban dictators can be put in charge by military force, voters, or the previous dictator naming his successor or person to follow him after he steps down. This picture is of Raul Castro, Cuba's dictator. Economic problems Cuba has. Economic problems Cuba has are they have a command economy where the government decides what goods and services are produced and how the resources are used. So in other words, they have no power in how they want to do their economy. Political problems of Cuba. Some political problems that Cuba has are the government controls everything and the people have no power, which is unlike the U.S. where we have a democracy and the people have all the power. Social problems that Cuba has. The government controls society, and if anyone criticizes the government, they will be arrested and that is a problem because they have no power, they can't control anything, and they will be arrested if they criticize the government. Here are some reasons why I wouldn't want to live in Cuba. I wouldn't want to live in Cuba because I wouldn't want to be controlled by a communist government. I want to hold the power in my own country. Another reason is I don't know how to speak Spanish. I'm sure I could learn, but that would take a lot of time. The last reason I wouldn't want to live in Cuba is because I like America and I really don't want to leave. Reasons why I would want to live in Cuba. A reason why I would want to live in Cuba is because I like the climate there. It's warm but not too hot. Another reason why I would like to live in Cuba is because they have a great education and the highest literacy rate in the world. Cuba also has great resources to rely on. The last reason why I would want to live in Cuba is because if I turned in my American money there, I would be rich, since $1 US is equal to a lot of Cuban pesos.